Chafing Armor Podcast, episode 46, Two Sunsets and a Dawn. Welcome back to the Chafing Armor Podcast. I'm your host and a slightly horsed Dungeon Master, Michael Corley, and with me tonight is Dare. Dare, tell everyone who you will be playing.
I am playing Tix Birchmanson, a rival and possible frenemy of Osokai's.
And speaking of Osokai, we have Osokai, who is played by the human man puppet, Lee. Lee, I sort of ruined your introduction there, so instead, tell us one other Dungeons & Dragons character that you've played in the past.
As Michael said, g'day, I'm Lee. One Dungeons & Dragons character I've played in the past. I once played a human monk who got to level 15, and one of her most interesting tales was how she managed to walk on air once to rescue a fallen compatriot.
Very interesting, and probably
Cool.
why you did such a good job. Yeah, why you did such a good job inhabiting Taka, the monk from many episodes ago. But when we last left off, there was murder most foul, a murder on the deck of the good ship Piss Whistle. And Duncan, the co-owner of the Piss Whistle and the shipping magnate, was blamed for this murder because her weapon was found and she was near the murder scene. Tix flew into action to investigate, was essentially deputized by Constable Zhang, and was able to get Osokai out of jail, though he did not want the help. And through various machinations, both Osokai and Tix are taking diverging and converging approaches to solving this murder. And after leaving a very interesting encounter at an inn, we found Tix. Tix was heading towards the estate of Loft. What are you looking for?
Tix is going to be heading towards the shoreward side of the estate, looking for a tree that stands out that the strange elf woman in leather and furs was muttering about.
Give me an investigation check.
Okay. That is a modified 21.
Ooh. So what you find as you make your way is Loft's estate, I told y'all, was essentially out of town, but not completely out of town, much the way sort of the rich areas of town are out of the center, but in sort of these nice little rural areas. And his actually begins to edge up to the ocean itself, to the Sand Swallow Sea. You kind of get a feel, just kind of running your fingers through the loamy sand, that there is an area that seems to be more like the sand that you saw tracked in on the ship. And so you're making your way across when suddenly you hear a sound like this. And out of the woods comes a big boar. It looks big, it looks mean, and it looks somewhat dangerous. It is not actually attacking you at the moment, but it is looking at you somewhat aggressively. And
How
it gives you
tall is Tix?
I'm 3'7".
Yeah, so being 3'7", even the boar, who is quite
4'4",
large.
I believe I put.
Oh, did you put 4'4"? Oh, you did. Yes, you did. For this yet unnamed, even though you have named it, boar. So I take that back. It is actually slightly larger, taller than you, and it is giving you the stink eye. Is there anything that you would like to do?
I'm going to edge my way around it and continue up the shoreline.
It does not attack you. Let me make just one quick roll. Nope, it does not attack you, especially because you do not move towards it. But it kind of just gives you this like, and when you are moving away from it, but not actually running from it, it just lets you go. And it continues to sort of snuffle through the sand. As you make your way further and further to the shore, inwards from the shore where the sand and the dirt kind of meet, you see something. You see a metal object sticking out of a tree.
I will continue forward, and I will be looking for an elf woman with furs and leather, and make my way towards the tree to see if I can shimmy up and get the so-called sword that the woman was talking about, see if it's actually a sword.
Okay. You make your way forward, and what you see is, certainly you can imagine if you took a sword and you drove it into the tree, then the handle would be sticking out. But what you see is actually the tip of the sword, and a good foot of the sword is actually coming out of the tree, as if the tree had grown around the sword. And now we're going to cut to Osokai. Osokai, you are having some stinky salve applied to you by a very grumpy old woman who is named Zuntis. And Zuntis says, "What in the hell did you get up to? You got your shoes all banged up."
Osokai will wince and scrunch his nose up a little bit. His nose is relatively sensitive to smells. And simply say, "Story time got a little rough."
She kind of chuckles. She goes, "Oh, yes, you boys, always telling tales, always saying the whatnots and the furthers." And I would like you to roll 2d6.
Okie. That's a 4. And that's a 6. So it's a 10.
Okay. So I want you to subtract 10. You actually, this is not just simply staunching the wound, but this is actually magical in nature, and is essentially what sort of a hedge wizard woman, a wise woman that you find often in local villages. And so this is where you get healing on the cheap if you don't want to go to an actual temple to get healed. She heals you right up. And obviously not completely, but 10 is not insignificant. And she tells you, "Oh, now just give yourself a good rest and stay away from nasty story time." And that'll be 20 gold.
I'll give her the 20 gold.
Okay, and she smiles and nods at you and says, "Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to do in this little healing
yes.
hut before you leave?
Actually, I will hold up another 5 gold coins, and I will ask her, "Has anybody odd been through here?" And by odd, I mean someone who looks like they don't want anyone asking questions about.
Yes. Why, yes, there was a man, a very, very thin man, a young man. He was not much more than skin and bone, I should say, and he was very, very cagey, should you say, and he was asking all sorts of odd questions.
I'll take out another gold coin and say, "What sort of questions?"
Well, now he was. She takes the gold, but you didn't get so much the point that she was going to hold out for more money as just like she just was trying to gather her thoughts. But she's very glad to take the extra coin. And she says he was asking the most strange questions. He asked me, "What does it look like when you find the body?" Because he asked me if I ever help with if there's a plague running through and there's dead bodies about, and he asked me like what's they look like after a while and what they look like when they's a stinking, and what happens if a man goes and gets stabbed and a man goes and gets his head crushed and so on.
Interesting. Did you happen to see which way he went? And I'll flash another 10 gold coins.
Well, it was a day before yester when he come by, but I think he went towards the docks.
I'll put down the 10 coins, and I'll put down another 5, and ask her, "You wouldn't happen to have any spare of that salve?
Well, I just might. And she goes over to a sort of a vaguely secret area, which is more like just a place covered in the cloth. And she pulls out, and it's not super great for travel, but it's kind of an earthenware pot that has the lid sealed with wax. She says, "You can spread this on. I should tell you that it don't keep forever. It's good for maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks, a month if you're lucky, but after that it starts to lose its potency."
Osakai will nod and thank her for her time and her information and the salve, and we'll head towards the docks.
All right, and add to your inventory a 2d6 healing salve. We'll see if it's how effective it is when you need it as you head towards the docks. And we cut back to Tix. Tix, you've come to this tree, and what are you going to do?
I'll walk around it and see how easy it will be for someone of my small stature to shimmy up it, and see if there is any way to use my axe to carve the sword out of the tree.
You certainly would be able to cut this out of the tree eventually, but what I definitely want to let you know is that it is in the center of the tree. So you will literally need to just hack out the middle of the tree. You were talking about a not insignificant amount of work, but you certainly could do it. I'm just saying it would take time.
How much time?
Probably like a good hour to do it, and that's being generous, because I would say you wouldn't be able to do it, but you have an axe. But imagine a medium-sized tree, about the width of a human, and just chopping out the middle of it would be a not insignificant amount of work.
I will pause there for a moment in the tree, look around the base for tracks, using my spot ability, my investigation ability, and see if I can find a path that somebody has worn back and forth to this tree, pondering the sword itself.
Okay, go ahead and roll an investigation check.
That is an 18.
Okay. You look around. You do find some tracks that are definitely not your own. They are larger. They are not huge. So they certainly could be the woman that you're looking for. That would relatively fit. But actually you find something else that is interesting. You certainly couldn't. You do, of course, have low light vision, so you can see, but it does affect your details that you can see in the dark. But when you're looking for the tracks, you realize that one of the roots of the tree is actually part of a foot, and that the tree root becomes the foot, and the foot becomes the tree root.
Interesting. I will slide down the tree. First I want to take a clear look at the sword and do an arcane check on it.
You do not sense anything magical from the sword. You do, however, get the tree itself kind of gives you a hum, that magic was, either the tree is magic or that a great deal of magic was done at the tree relatively recent.
Okay, and I'm going to slide down to the root foot, and see if it is relatively humanesque or what type of creature it might belong to.
It is difficult to say. Go ahead and give me one more investigation.
That is a modified 25.
Tix actually knows this because what was the thing that Tix got to do that he absolutely hated, which was go chop down trees. And so he got to know trees really, really well. And he knew the way they are, the way they're made, just the way, what makes a good tree for chopping. And he knew that you can actually listen to a tree, and you can actually hear the fluid moving through the tree if you listen. I'm not making this up, by the way. This is actually a true thing. And you put your ear to the tree as you're getting that magical hum, and you realize that magical hum is not just magic. There is actually a sound, an extremely faint sound that's coming from this tree. and you take a step back and you just kind of cock your head to one side and you realize the shape of the tree is kind of resolving itself in your mind. It reminds you vaguely of a human figure. And where one of the branches would be like a left arm raised into the air. Where the lower branch would be an arm perhaps at its side, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe holding a sword. And the center of the tree has a slight hollow and two divots. And you think it might look like a human face, twisted and distorted. And from that face area, now that you're listening for it over the sounds of the night, you can hear... And we'll cut to Osokai! Osokai, where are you heading now to?
Should be headed towards the dock.
Okay, and you make your way there in quick time. She was not that far from the docks.
I'm guessing the guards are still there.
They actually are, yes. And they're looking very, very bored because they've been here for hours and hours.
Fair enough. I wonder... I'll give it a shot. Osukai is going to tousle or rough up his own clothes a little bit, rough up his hair, and run towards the guards, huffing and puffing and shouting, "Murder! Someone's been killed at the inn! Help! Help!"
Make a deception check.
That is a 19 on the die.
Okay. They look at you and they go, "What? Which inn?" And the one you were in was Grundle's inn, by the way.
I'll take some...
He's talking about Grundle's inn. Come on, let's go. And they both run off, clanking their armor and their pikes as they make their way. And you hear just a low chuckle. And she goes, "I think you missed your career in acting." And you turn and you see, not on the ship, but just to the side of it, near the docks, Captain Jackson. And she is just laughing at your little performance. And she says, "How you been?"
Making sure that the guards have more than disappeared.
They have.
I will compose myself again, pull my clothing back into, or my armor back into place, and smooth my hair down a little bit, and tell her, "Could we do this on the move? Because I don't have a lot of time."
Absolutely. I was... it's been a weird few weeks, gotta be honest with you. I was going to see if I could get on board, so you've saved me the trouble. And she heads up with you up the plank. And she says, pretty nasty business on here. I was actually on board when it happened. Myself and Tun and Brumio, we were working down below since your little wizardy friend fixed the leak down below, but we still have to do some more repairs.
I will nod and go and say, "I would really like to catch up again sometime, but since our shared ability, shall we say, you didn't happen to catch anything no one else would have." And I will point to my own ears, and she's not stupid. She'll figure out what I mean.
She kind of nods, and she furrows her brow, and she goes, it's taken me a lot of getting used to, you should know, especially some of the more intimate moments with my crew. Was not expecting to hear that. She just shakes her head and goes, I've taken to stuffing my ears with wax sometimes at night just to sleep.
Osako will say, "When this is all over and something's happened, come and find me. I'll give you some techniques, because it never goes away."
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. But in answer to your question, I did hear something. I heard the sound of two men talking, and then I heard the sound of a scuffle. I heard a sound that I don't know what it was. It was very unpleasant. Imagine... you've had pasta before, right? Like a pasta dish?
Yes. Didn't really fancy it myself.
Yeah, well, I don't think I ever will again, because imagine someone taking both hands and shoving fistful of pasta in their mouth and trying to eat an entire bowl in 3 seconds. That's what I heard. Just this. This is what it sounded like. It was, and she mimes it for you, and then she makes like this, like vomiting look, and she goes, I'm a sea captain. I have an iron stomach, and I nearly threw up when I heard it.
Okay, Ozuka will ponder this for a moment. Think back, Jackson. This might be hard because it's not entirely something. You kind of need to train yourself for this one. Did you happen to smell anything that stood out against the rest of your shit?
Well, I did. I smelled. Well, first of all, I smelled blood, and then I smelled something. I couldn't. And I mean this. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I've never smelled it before. I don't know if it's because of my new senses or what. And then I heard something, and it was the sound of something very heavy coming down on a human head, which I later learned that's what it was. And I heard that, and I heard it a few times. And then I heard the sound of, very distinctly, of a woman laughing. And it was a rich, just peals of laughter, and I couldn't tell if she was human or elf, but I don't think she was one of the, if you don't mind me saying, gruffer races. I think she was an elf or a human, and she was just laughing uproariously. And you have to understand, this all happened in a few seconds, no more than 30 seconds. By the time myself and Brumio and Tun got up deck, it was all over. And then I heard the sound of footsteps retreating from the boat.
One last thing, and then we'll quickly go and have a look at the scene, I suppose. This one's going to be rough. Did the air taste different?
Yeah, it did. In the moments before and after I heard that slurping noise, I've seen some strange things on the Sand Swallow Sea, and I've encountered a few things that were not from here, if you know what I'm saying, like from another plane of existence. And
ditto.
Yeah. It reminded me of that. Whatever that taste and smell was, it was other. It was not human. And I don't mean elf. It was like from another place.
During our inhabitation of the same body, I suppose, we would have shared some memories as well. I don't know if you might know this memory at all. Myself and the rest of my band of netwits, we encountered something in the Underdark. It would make that sound. It smelled horrible. And the air tasted funny. In the exact area of that particular gross creation. I'm talking about a mind flayer. Similar at all?
She kind of scrunches up her eyes and she goes, yeah, I've gotten pretty interesting memories from you randomly. And she kind of gives you a side eye. And she says, I've noticed that I'm not so bad at tracking things now. And she rolls a 16 with her +2 modifier. And she kind of half closes her eyes for a second, and she goes, "Oh, gods, yes." I want to tell you though, the what I'm remembering from you, it was slightly different, and I can't say if it was just because I was further away or because, but it seemed that what you heard was like a. And this was more like a blah 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 blah. But it was in that ballpark. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I don't know how to better describe it.
Thank you very much for that. Because your senses will help, even if you don't think they will. Who knows? You might get an advantage while you're out on the open waters. But let's have a look at the crime scene.
And she says, yeah, I sure hope it does. I mean, Loft was a right bastard, and I'm glad that this has happened to him. But honestly, I really like Duncan. She's a really good ship owner. She really cares about her crew. She's trying to make a profit, but she actually does care about making sure that her crew gets there alive, which was, one of the reasons why they hired you in the first place. because the Sand Swallow Sea is so dangerous. And y'all make your way to the crime scene, and you see what was before the now slightly more congealed body with a crushed skull and the murder weapon laying nearby.
I am going to search, but I'm searching for something else. Something under the blood. Something under the gore. Something that goes away from the body. That isn't actually in the vicinity of the body. Something else. Maybe something that dried up, like a goo of some kind, or something that would be missed by someone who wasn't actually looking. Something that doesn't belong.
Okay.
That's a 19 and plus a 4, so that's 23.
Okay, you, after several minutes, you do a careful examination of this area and sniffing, and it's very unpleasant to be sniffing and smelling so close to it, to this dead body. You actually find nothing as far as there. When you watch that mind flayer, consume that body, there was a sort of kind of gooey acid that actually ate through the skull. And you don't find anything like that. Now, it might just be that it's not here or you didn't roll high enough, but you do think maybe that there maybe should be some more brains here. Your working theory seems to somewhat hold up.
I will turn to Jackson again and say, you heard two footsteps, two sets of footsteps, correct? Or just two voices?
Well, originally I heard two male voices talking, and of course the body is a man, is Bunter. I heard two male voices talking. Then I heard some kind of commotion, the slurping, whatever spaghetti sound, and then I heard the sound of the hammer coming down multiple times, and that's when I heard the high woman's laughter.
I will ask her, okay, when the footsteps retreated, when you heard them go away, did they sound different to you? Lighter, perhaps? You know how when you're carrying something from the dock up to the deck and your footsteps fall a little harder, a little more solid on the wood as you try and hold something heavy. Did those sounds change at all?
I just couldn't say for sure, but I do know the sound of a shipmate who's carrying a heavy load as they load cargo on and off. I didn't hear anything that sounded like that, though of course I could be wrong.
I will say now, obviously what I'm thinking is, I was speaking to the local healer woman around the corner. You know the one? The old one? The crabby, grumpy one?
Oh, Xantis. Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, I'm sure Brumio has been there a few times. She said that a interesting young man was talking about what bodies look like when they've died versus how long they've been dead and all these other interesting things. My working theory is Bunter was dead before he got here. And there's two reasons for that. One, there should be more here than there is if his head was clubbed in multiple times here. I'm thinking there should be blood from port to starboard across the deck and possibly up some of the masts, and I'm not seeing that. It's too clean here. It's too clean. Do you get what I mean by that?
Oh, absolutely. I've had, unfortunately, a shipmate who's fallen off the deck, crow's nest to his death, and it was a mess. Obviously this doesn't look great, but it wasn't anything like, it was way worse than this.
Like I said, impacts from a height would do that, yeah, but if you have heard multiple thumpings, and given the state of this poor boy's head, it sounds like he was thumped multiple times, there should be more here. There should be more blood, there should be bits of skull around. Hell, look at the mall itself. There's very little blood on it.
Mm-hmm. There is definitely blood and hair on it. It clearly was used to smash in the skull, or at least it appears to be so. Now that you're looking at it with those eyes, and that's sort of what Tix saw before as well, that there just seems like there should be more.
So I'm thinking either Bunter was already dead when he got here, or he was killed elsewhere, which is essentially the same thing. But you know what I mean? Something isn't adding up here.
Yeah,
this scene
stinks.
smells wrong. This scene stinks. This scene smells wrong. It looks wrong. It tastes wrong. Taste the air. There's something wrong here. This isn't the scene of a murder. This is the scene of a cover-up.
Yeah, it is. This is no good. This is no good at all, and I don't like that it's happening on my ship. That's when you get a flash. And by the way, this has never happened before. You actually get a twinge, and it's from the boar. And it's probably maybe just a mile away from here, but you get a sense of danger. And you're quite surprised by this, by the way, because you were just starting to kind of get to know this boar, and you certainly did not have any kind of psychic link. But something hits you, and just letting you know that you suddenly get that feeling.
I will nod to Jackson and say we should probably get off the ship. The guards are probably going to be coming back once they realise that, one, the story was not entirely true. Yes, I did leave a mess back there, but no one was murdered. And also, they probably won't like you having snuck back on board. You do. It is your ship, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to be on here until the investigation's over, so I should probably skedaddle.
So I will. If you're still around when all this is over, like I said, come and find me. I'll be at one of the inns. Most likely the Grundle. I'm on relatively good terms with the barmaid there.
She gives you, like, her eyes go up. Really?
Not respond to that. And just give her a wink, and I will head in the vague direction of Loft's estate, because this is information that Tix is most likely going to want to hear.
Okay.
As much as I don't really want to give it to him.
And you make your way down. Just as you're heading around the corner from the docks, you hear the chink, chink, chink of the guards making their way back. And Tix, you as you're slowly realizing that this tree is vaguely in a human form, and it seems to be perpetually screaming. That's when you begin to also hear the sound of muttering. What would you like to do?
I'm going to begin kneeling and praying and placing my hands on the tree. I'm going to be praying to Garl Glittergold to remove curse, even though I don't have that spell yet, and begin casting restoration and ask for my God to help me in this situation to find proof of an innocent woman, and that we can bring murderers to justice and make that plea to Garl Glittergold.
You begin your prayer, and the prayer itself is a little longer, and you talk about the curse, though you do not yet have that connection with your God, and so that does not actually do anything. But when you cast restoration, something happens. The tree just twists and shifts, and you hear this cracking sound, and the low hum of the scream slowly intensifies into a and then suddenly a human form resolves in front of you and collapses to the ground, by the way, and you see a thin human man, and you recognize him. This is Raro, the thief that you had rescued from the pirate ship.
Raro, this is a slight surprise. What did you go and find for yourself? I make sure not to touch the sword. Did the sword fall out of his hand, or is it stuck to him?
It fell out of it clattered to the ground. As before, you don't sense anything particularly magical about the sword. At least you don't think so. But you, knowing about magic things, you're quite wise and not trying to grab it or anything. And he's very confused, and he seems to be in a slight state of horror. And he goes, oh my god, where is she? Where is she?
Who? Where is who? And I begin looking around for our wayward elf that I've been looking for.
And you begin to hear that muttering intensify as a woman comes through the parting in the trees. And she is dressed in leathers and robes, and they are in furs, and they are tattered and torn, and she looks terrible. She looks like someone who's just been there's the look of someone who sleeps outdoors but knows what they're doing, but then there's the look of someone who's been outdoors and it's just not been taking care of themselves. They've just been, her lips are cracked, her skin is sunburnt. She is an elf, but she's just in terrible shape. Every once in a while, as she shifts her kind of bulky robes, you see little wisps of kind of greenish smoke come off her, kind of like foggish greenish smoke, and there's a very unpleasant smell coming off of her. And she's just kind of muttering to herself, and she's saying, sword in the tree, sword in the tree, sword in the tree, make the mark, make the mark, make the mark. Do as you're told, do as you're told, do as you're told.
I will go with my instincts, and I'm going to cast protection from evil on myself and place myself between her and Ruro. Call out to her, hold, and what are you looking for?
And she like didn't really seem to see you before. She kind of turns, and her eyes are wild, and they're just bloodshot. And she turns and she looks at you, and she goes, what am I looking for? I'm doing as I'm told. I need you to roll for initiative.
That's what I figured was coming.
Very smart for you to do that before.
And that is a 17.
17 for Tix. And Raro gets a 5. This mysterious woman also gets a 5, but I'm going to say she goes first because she is more ready than he is. He's still kind of recovering. You get to go first. And she is, you know the look of someone who is casting some kind of spell. She is beginning to cast some kind of spell, which is why you went into initiative.
Okay. And so I am going to run up to her and take a swing at her knees, because that's a good spot to hit. And that is going to be a 16.
16 will hit.
That is 8 points of damage.
Okay.
That's
good hit.
Trying to disrupt her spell.
Since you are not holding an action for that specifically, that she still gets to act on her turn. Otherwise, every time y'all got hit, you would lose that. And she kind of shifts her heavy robe, and a half-dead rat she pulls out from the side, and she hurls it to the ground in front of you and just goes, ah! And the rat grows up to about 4 feet long, the size of a large dog, and it attacks. And it gets a 12. So
nope.
Does not do well. So that will actually bring it to Raro, and he picks up the sword, and nothing happens because it whatever was going on wasn't apparently the sword. He tries to dart in and give her a stab, and he gets a 15, which will miss. So he's still kind of recovering and not quite up on there. And we're going to cut to Osokai. Osokai, you're making your way through the woods and the forest, and that's when you come across this boar once again, and the boar comes right up to you and goes, "Ree, ree, 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 ree," and kind of snuffles in the ground and looks at you meaningfully.
What is it? Timmy trapped down a well? I will kneel down, look at the boar, and just... Osugai's still a little bit confused at the moment. We've just met, and I'm getting twinges from this thing. Questioningly, his voice kind of is sort of a take me to the danger?
And he immediately goes, "Rrr, rrr, rrr," and he shuffles once his nose in the dirt, and then immediately turns and just takes off running.
We'll follow, I guess. I've got nothing better to do.
And that will cut to you, Tix. It is your turn.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to hit her again and knock her prone.
If you're trying to knock her prone, that is more of the action itself than. What I'm saying is that won't necessarily damage her.
Oh.
But if you successfully knock her prone, you will get an attack of opportunity if she tries to right herself in combat.
Okay. Okay. Then I am going to go ahead and knock her prone with a 19.
Okay.
Plus 2, so that's a 21.
That will definitely hit.
And so she is knocked prone.
You have knocked her to the ground. She falls and screams, and she holds out her hand, and all around you, you hear a rumbling sound, and stone spikes just come up from the ground. And I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
That is a whole 17.
17.
Unmodified.
So you successfully move out of the way as they're coming out of the ground. You actually kind of feel them below your feet, and you're able to sidestep just in time as they come out. Raro isn't quite so lucky. He actually takes 3 points of damage as one of them slams into his foot, and he's ow, 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 ow. In order to move, you will need to either go very slowly or risk taking damage from these spikes that are sticking out of the ground. And they're in about a 10-foot by 10-foot radius around you, just so you know.
Okay.
And that will bring it to Raro's turn. He is not going to do anything right now because he's still trying to figure out if he can move with these spikes. He's kind of trying to make his way like a little towards her, but he's moving very, very carefully. And that will bring it to the rat, who's trying to attack you. The rat gets a 12.
Not even close.
So he does not hit. And unfortunately for the rat, he takes 4 points of damage because he's also in these stone spikes. And that now, Osukai, I would like you to roll for initiative.
Okay. That is a 11.
11. Okay. So that will bring it back to you, Tix.
Okay. Is she still within my reach? She is prone on the ground? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I am going to reach out and grab hold of her and cast Inflict Wounds. That is a 16 again.
That will hit.
Excellent. Okay, so that...
Exactly what you needed.
2d8. And that is 10 points of damage.
Okay, so you've now done 18 points of damage to her, and she screams as the necrotic energy just flows through one of her arms, and you see her arm kind of wither under your tender ministrations as you curse her with the righteous anger of Garl Glittergold. And that will bring it actually to you, Osukai. You come running through the woods. You see Raro standing behind Tix. You see Tix engaged in combat with a woman in furs and leathers. You see a giant rat. That is what you see when you come in. What would you like to do? And of course, you do make out the stone spikes on the ground.
Okay. This Raro, is he who we are looking for? The tall, thin man?
You do not know. He is thin.
Well, I am going to pull up sharply because I don't want to run into this field of stone spikes. Mm-hmm. Seems like a bad call. You can move through them at half speed safely, but that would probably take your entire turn to move through them without taking damage. Yeah, that's 15 feet, which is not great. No, I'm going to pull up short and pull up. I'm going to assume the boar is smart enough to not run into them
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to.
So we're both going to pull up short. I'm going to drop down another bit of ration, just to kind of, one, reward the boar for leading me to the danger, and two, because it's there. Also, it'll hopefully stop the boar, because I don't want it running in, even though it hasn't done it by now. Let's see. How far away is Raro at the moment from me?
He would be probably about 25 feet from you,
And he would be,
because he's a little further back.
Is he at the edge of the circle of
Yes.
stone spikes, or is
Yes,
he
he is.
in the middle somewhere? I'm going to take my full action, and I'm going to tackle him out of the spikes.
Okay. I would like you to make a athletics check to do that.
Okay. That's an 18 on the die.
18. Okay. And then I would also like you to make a dexterity saving throw to not be damaged by the spikes.
Okay. That's a 19 on the die, plus 3, so that's 22.
Okay, so you just boom, 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 boom. We've seen you before launch yourself as you did when you leapt up on top of the chicken hut back in the Island of Death. And there's this moment where Rao kind of turns to look at you and goes, whoa, and then boom! You just tackle him and you go flying out of the spikes, your feet just barely missing the sharp, jagged, almost obsidian-like edges of these spikes. As you just boom, both of you are out of the spike field now because he was near the edge.
As he goes down, and I slam on top of him, I'll just lean in and go, stay.
He just looks at you in bewilderment, like, and he doesn't move. That actually brings it to the boar, who is basically just kind of sniffing, and he's kind of. What he's trying to do is get at that rat. He really wants to get at that rat, but he can't get past the spikes, especially with his low-to-the-ground body. There is just almost no way for him to make his way through those without injuring himself. And so he's just kind of frustratingly going, trying to get around, and he can't. And that will bring it to the druid, and she is just screaming, and she slams her hand into the ground, and a wall of fire erupts and spreads out, going from you, Tix, down, trying to bisect where the other two of you are. And I need all of you to make a dexterity saving throw. Osokai, you get a +2 because it really was aimed at Tix, and it's just kind of tangentially going to be in your area.
Well, that's a 24 anyway.
Okay.
That's a 17.
Raro actually takes 5 more points of damage, so he's taken 7 points of damage, and he screams as he falls back, and the side of his body is singed. One more thing, though, Tix, I need you to make one more dexterity saving throw, because as you move out of the way of the flame, you've now had to step back onto the spikes.
That is an 18.
Oh, so you are just dancing and weaving. I mean, this is, again, like in a movie, this would be a slow motion moment where you jerk back from the flames and then you kind of almost fall to the ground and your hand just, boom, comes down and steadies you right between like 4 really jagged spikes. But you do not fall and you do not take damage. Very impressive. There is also now a wall of flame about 20 feet long that is going from her, and it actually, Osokai and Raro are on one side, and Tix, you are on the other.
I'm on the other side with her, right?
Yes, essentially, yes. Obviously, there's 360 degrees. There's nothing stopping Osokai from coming around, but there's the spikes in the way. And that will actually bring it to Raro, who is holding his shoulder in pain. And that brings it to the rat, who is still trying to get you. He rolls an 11, and he does not succeed against the spikes. And so he does... He took 10 points of damage and just impales himself on one of the spikes as he leaps at you, and you've done your little 3-point landing, and he just lands on 3 spikes and just dies instantly. And that will bring it back to you, Tix.
I am going to swing at my axe with the flat of the blade at her head and do my best to knock her out with non-lethal damage.
Okay.
And that is a 20.
A 20.
A natural 20.
A natural 20. So roll for the damage.
That is with a battle axe triple damage on a critical. And so that is 16 points of damage.
16 points of damage.
Non-lethal.
Non-lethal. So that you actually dodge around the flames, dodge the rat who impales himself, swing yourself around, and just as you're coming back around, she's getting ready to cast another spell, and you just flip the handle around to not show the sharp edge, and just punk, hit her in the side of the head, and she collapses unconscious. And instantly... Oh, go ahead.
What was she... Okay, I was going to say, what is she at now? This is out of game. And what would she be at with the non-lethal? Because even non-lethal, if it still renders her below -10, she's still dead.
No, she's not -10. She's actually only 4 points over her 0. So she's not yet -10. But she collapses to the ground, and as she does, the flames immediately evaporate, and the stone spikes actually don't go away immediately, but they start to crumble and become sort of soft and chalky, so that you're able to fairly easy move through them without hurting yourself, as long as you're careful. And she is unconscious, and combat is over.
Okay. I will look over at Osakai and smile and say, welcome to the party. And then I'll turn back to the elf and start rifling through her clothes and see what, if anything, is significant about her, and try and discern who she is and what's going on.
Okay.
Osakai will look to the Pharaoh, or whatever his name was, and just kind of give a... That's the tiny one. Always going through women's stuff.
And he lets out like a ow, 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 because his shoulder is burned.
I also want to sniff around, see if I can catch the same smell that Jackson described.
Okay.
That's a 19 on the die.
Now that you're looking for it, you actually do get the faintest scent of something unworldly.
With a very distinct change of tone, tell Tix, you may want to bind her and cover her.
I nod, because Tix has had the similar thoughts about the lack of brains on the body. So I take a cloth and wrap her head and my little rope and bind her hands.
You find something that you're not expecting on an elf woman of leathers and fur is you actually find a fine belt made of gold. And it's rough gold. It's not polished, not like in a bar. It's like newly dug out of the earth, but more processed than just like a chunk of ore. But there's something wrong with it. Well, first of all, it smells. It just has this very unpleasant smell about it. It's just giving off these weird little wisps of unpleasantness. And I'd actually like you to make a Constitution saving throw, Tix.
And that is a 15.
You are able, you kind of cough, and you feel like you've been poisoned before, and it's not dissimilar to that, and you kind of just fight off the effects, and you take a step back, and you realize that like you don't want to be inhaling that. That is not, whatever that is not safe, and this woman has been wearing it, so you don't know what it's been doing to maybe others or to her.
Can I use the tip of my dagger to unbuckle it, and regardless of the comments of Osokai, get it off of her without actually touching it?
Yes. Just go ahead and give me just a straight roll with dexterity.
That is a 14.
It's more than good enough. It's only connected to her by rope. You cut it loose and kind of flick, and it just skips into the woods a little bit, and is now out of range so that you're not inhaling it anymore.
Osokai is going to go towards it, and he's going to take out some of the salve he got from our healer and slather it on the golden belt buckly thing, and then wrap it up in a bit of cloth and tuck it back into one of his belt pouches.
Okay. I would like you to make a Constitution saving throw while you are doing that.
Okay. That is... Wow, my Constitution is actually pretty good. That's a 16 total.
Okay. Because you get a few whiffs of this, you can't help it when you're doing the process. And I did say specifically that this salve is very like tar-like. And so you kind of just, you're literally just covering it up. The belt isn't huge, but I mean, obviously, like if this was just regular gold, it would be fairly valuable. And you cover it up and put it in your pack. Your hands are just covered in stick now. Though the few bruises on your hands start healing, so that's nice.
Does that smell? Is it the smell that Jackson and myself were trying to find? Is it the same kind of smell, that otherworldly, horrible...
Give me a perception roll.
17?
No, it's different. It's very unpleasant, and it's very uncanny. It's, clearly some kind of magic, but it's not that smell. What would y'all like to do now? The lasts of the stone spikes are just crumbling into dust now. The unconscious elf is kind of muttering in her sleep. She is fairly badly injured as well, just so you know.
Okay, I'm going to tend her wounds, and so I'll do a medicine check. And that's a 14... no. That is an 18 for heal.
Okay. So you are able to stabilize her, and she is now at 1 hit point. And I will say that she is still unconscious for the time being.
And I continue to check through her pockets and bags to see if I can find any identification or indicator as to how she got in this state and what she was looking for.
You do find a couple of things. First of all, give me one more investigation roll.
Okay. And that is a 15.
15. So you do find, first of all, very relevant to what you were looking for before. She is wearing the matching glove that you found partially burned in the brazier, Duncan's room. And you actually find a blood-stained journal, a notebook in her pocket. It is written in Elven, though, so I don't know if you speak that.
Let's see. My languages are Gnomish, Common, and Dwarvish. So no.
Yes. You can pick out
By now, Tix should know Ozukai speaks Elven. So
you probably would have heard that at some point.
I look over at him, and so, are you feeling cooperative? And I just leave that hanging there. And then I go over to Rero and cast Cure Light Wounds on him and heal his wounds.
Okay. I'll say he's at 7 points down, so I'll say you completely heal him. And he is extremely grateful. He's like, "Oh man, thanks, buddy. That was I don't want to even describe what it was like being that tree, because I was aware of everything, but I couldn't move, and it in time seemed to even slow down, and so I'm in your debt."
As I'm speaking to Rero, I hold the paper in Osokai's general direction. Rero, how did you end up as a tree?
It was awful. I had come to the ship. I was actually looking for you guys because I had gotten some information about the Witch of the Lowlands, because I knew that was what y'all were looking for. And I promised you that I was going to, kind of look through some of my contacts. I know a few of the, shadier people in town, and was trying to find out a few things. And I actually got some information. So I was coming back to talk to y'all. And I come back and I find this just insane woman, and she's just smashing this young man's head in. He's laying on the ground and she's just smashing his head over and over again, and then she's just laughing, and I'm just shocked. She runs right past me. I'm just utterly shocked, and then I feel terrible because I didn't do anything, and I think, well, it's just like it's like a crazy woman. I've been down this road before, pal, if you know what I mean. And I was like, maybe I could do something, and so I try to follow her, at least find out where she is. And she's in the woods, and I draw my sword, and then she just reaches up and touches me. That's what you saw after that.
As I look towards Osakai, and is he coming over to read the script on the piece of parchment?
I will take the little notebook from Tix and flick through and see if I can read the text. It's probably some guy's journal.
It most certainly is. In fact, it appears to be her journal. You see that it says at the beginning that these are the writings of the druid Pansrexial. She was the guardian of the Greater Woods, which actually were much further north of here. Maybe at least 20 miles north of here. But she had been getting rumblings of strange happening, and she had been investigating, and she kept coming across drow. And there kept being these odd fissures that were opening in the earth, and this unwholesome green smoke that was coming out. And she's detailing the investigations that she was doing, and some of the strange creatures that seemed to be coming from caverns nearby.
The entries getting slowly more insane as they go.
Absolutely, they are. They are getting more and more insane, and then by the end, they are just. She never stops writing. She never stops putting it down. But you just see this slow descent into madness as she's talking about that she must replant the forest, and that the earth itself will swallow them all whole, and that she will breathe deep of the fumes of the earth, and that she will make all pay for what has happened. And it's just utter nonsense by the end. And there's and you could tell this isn't like the ravings of there's some intellect behind it. It's just pure insanity.
Is there an entry of her finding this buckle, this belt of hers?
There is.
And do things get considerably worse after that?
It's hard to tell, but there is an entry of the belt of the gods, is what she calls it, and how it speaks to her in strange whispers. And you do see that things get even crazier after that.
I will relay this information. Is there an entry in there about the murder?
No.
We relatively know. Does she date it, or are there any time indications?
There are. I mean, it's certainly aged. Well, and I'll take that. I take that back just a little bit. There is a quick scribble near the end of the journal, and it's literally she's already run out of pages, and she's just started kind of writing on the borders of the last few pages. She says the ringing of the hammer is such sweet song, and that's the closest you get to anything talking about the murder.
All right. I'm going to turn to Osakai and say, well, we have, with Rero here as a witness, we have enough evidence to go get Duncan out. So let's grab her. You could be helpful and carry her, or Rero and I will drag her along, get back to Constable Zhang to get Duncan out of jail.
Osakai is not convinced we're done. But we're both headed in the same direction anyway, so what's the point in being too useless? I will carry our unconscious friend, but I will make it known that something still isn't right. Something still doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And as we're walking along, I will drop back next to Osakai while Rero's up ahead and confirm that his story doesn't quite match up with the events that went on board. Rero's story doesn't quite match up, it seems.
I will relay the same information that I got from Jackson, in that there were 2 male voices heard, yet we didn't... Where is the second male voice? If Rero is the first one, where is the second one?
And that would be Bunting, and then our brain-eating friend, and the elf, and Rero. So there's one more figure, and so Rero's story does not add up.
We're missing something.
Let's get Duncan out, and we can follow up on that.
You are able to make your way back to the police station, and you come in carrying an unconscious elf woman. And just in brief, tell me how you explain this to Captain Zhang. I'm sorry, Constable Zhang, of the events that transpired.
As I find Zhang at his desk with his meaty self sitting there, lay out the badge, the glove, the sand, and have Rero stand there next to me and explain the timeline in great painful detail about who was where and what we believe has gone on as far as an otherworldly being giving a side eye to Rero, and have Rero confirm that this elf woman was the one that attacked the Bunter. What's his last name? Bainwright.
Thank you.
Bunter Bainwright, that Captain Duncan is innocent and needs to be freed immediately as per our agreement.
And go ahead and just give me a persuasion check.
I dropped Garl Glittergold's name several times. And my persuasion is a good 16.
That tips it over the edge, and he slaps his hand on the desk and goes, "By the gods, and by Garl Glittergold himself, that's good detective work, Birchman." Wait, that's your last name, right?
Birchmanson.
Ah, Birchmanson, that's right, Birchmanson. Good gnomish name. I'm proud I'm so glad that I brought you in, and I'm glad that your assistant was able to help as well.
And while Osakai is growling at Constable Zhang, I repocket the badge out of sight for later usefulness.
Okay. I won't even make you make a sleight of hand check. I'm just going to say you can do that because you could have just had it in your pocket before and he wouldn't have even noticed. So he doesn't ask for it back because he's so happy that right at his retirement that he's going to be able to have this big case closed and off the books so that he can retire in good standing with the city. And so he gives a joyous cry and he claps you on the back and he says, if you ever need help with the local authorities here, I'll certainly still have sway, and you can always come and find me.
Thank you, Constable.
And he goes, damn it, Birchmanson, and whatever the hell that guy's name is, Bear Boy, you two are unconventional, but you're effective. And good work. And that ends Chafing Armor, episode 46. Great job, guys!
I am sorely tempted to go back to prison. And say I would kill the next person that called me Bear Boy. And I'm not kidding about this.
Oh, I know.
I will go to prison.
I had in my mind with this wonderful dichotomy that y'all have working with these characters is what if we did a what amounted to a buddy cop episode or episodes, and I was just so curious to see what you would do, and that you decided not to work together, which was fantastic. That was a choice that I was not expecting. So y'all did a fantastic job, and certainly it was a lot of fun from my end. I hope y'all had fun too.
I enjoyed that, Lee. That was very fun.
Well, I hope y'all have a good rest of the evening, and we're going to pick up with a news story with Penton and Morezi at the next episode. But until then, y'all have a wonderful day, and goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, and we will roll with you soon. Holy crap, that was a long episode.
Yeah, it was.
Long 2 episode.